If you remember my previous video about the 3 steps to success in Mayhem, we now have covered the first step, which is securing a couple of empty sectors. We also have the second step, which is a stable income situation. We have a couple of factories which are trading with the NPCs basically and earning a little bit of cash. We have looters, we have miners, we are selling all that stuff. And now we also have a very scalable arms dealing scheme going on. So we can easily produce a lot of weapons and shields and sell them to a trading station. And now comes step 3, which is getting independent with the ship crafting material. And in this game, I have decided to play the Empire tall. That means that I will focus on producing only the ship parts themselves, because I could not secure a large area of space for myself. You can also build your empire from the ground up. So, for example, for the hull plating facility, you need 𝗲𝗺𝗃. And for 𝗲𝗺𝗃, you need a chemical lab. So you could build all these factories in order, start with the chemical lab, then the 𝗲𝗺𝗃 foundry, and then the hull plating facility. And I could also probably pull this off if I utilize all my sectors, but they are pretty far apart. And I have a trading station nearby. And in 0 hour, this works really well. You can actually play tall, but you need the money. Now we got the money, so we can skip building all those factories. That's just a decision that I'm making for this game, because I need to be a bit efficient in case the OCV is coming knocking at my doorstep. So I'm building straight the hull plating facilities, the crystal fabs, the computer plants, and the quantum tube factories. All those factories which are producing high-end ship parts without having the intermediate products. But I have already made sure that I have the money and I can simply buy those. It's not that expensive. And in case we need more money, we can also sell those ship parts easily. So that is not a problem. That's an option that you have. You can play the Empire tall. That is what I'm gonna do in this game. But it's absolutely not necessary to do this. I know that most players would like to build the economy from the bottom up. But I think that playing like this, playing tall, is actually quicker and more efficient. Because with the same amount of sectors, or even a lower amount of sectors, with less station support slots, you can crank out more ship parts and build more ships. And if you have money, you can also pay for all these ships, and then you will have big fleets, even with a fairly small empire. If you start producing everything yourself, you need a fairly large area of space for yourself to put all these factories in there to supply all that. That still is the ultimate goal, of course, to own a large area of space for yourself. That's what the game is all about. But in this case, I could simply not reach the scale of ship part production if I would do it from the bottom up. The downside to playing your empire tall is that you are extremely dependent on outside sources for resources. That works well if you have a trading station nearby. But if you are dependent on other factions, that means that you cannot go to war with them because they are your primary suppliers, of course. But in this case, I have a trading station here, and this trading station has a lot of resources, especially chemicals and ore. So those are 2 primary components which are already covered. And I can simply skip producing them myself. And if you want to try that, play tall and get the resources from outside sources. And I highly recommend to try at least in one game, because it's a hell lot of fun if you're a bit dependent on that supply for a while. Then we need to go to our outpost, which is housing the agents and is distributing those resources to our factories. And we're going to trade. And in quick trade, you will find those templates which are called supply. And those are for playing tall. So you're basically buying the resources which are used in factories. You need money before you do that. If you do that without money, it will bankrupt you. But we have the money and we can activate that. If we check sea rations, shells meat, chemicals, things like that, stuff that is used by factories, we have an import level of 0. And if we click factory supply, we are buying that stuff for 200k each. So you need quite a lot of money to pull this off. And I'm doing the same thing for my shipyard. It's very unlikely that you will find a supplier for all 3 ship parts that you need, but we can try. So we try to buy those too. And that needs a bit more money. So I'm ramping up the cash transfer on this shipyard to 1 million in case we need to make a big purchase, that there is enough money here. And I'm doing the same thing on my station construction outpost, but here I just want to buy the parts that we need to construct stations. So I'm activating that. And now he wants to buy ore, rustar oil, and tellurium. And all 3 combined will cost about 1 million. But I already had a lot of those parts in this outpost, so it won't be that expensive. The quick trade module always shows you how much money it would need if the station was completely empty when you activate it. So for this station crafting supply module, we would need about 1 million.